This week at Bungie, we are hosting Lord Saladin one last time in the Season of the Drifter. The final Iron Banner for this season rages on. This is your last chance to finish up any of the triumphs, or maybe get that ridiculous emblem if you like to show off. We'll have some slight chances to Iron Banner next season. Changes. We'll give you the full details. I'm going to read that again, because I don't know how to read chat. Is that a Symmetra ult? Emote? I'm also going somewhere else so these people stop talking in the background. I don't want to hear them. Okay. This week at Bungie, we are hosting Lord Saladin one last time in the Season of the Drifter. The final Iron Banner for the season rages on. This is your last chance to pick up any of the triumphs, or maybe get that ridiculous emblem if you like to show off. We'll have some slight changes to Iron Banner next season. We'll give you the full details on what to expect the week before Saladin returns to the tower in Season of Opulence. Season of Opulence Sandbox changes. So this is the thing that everybody on Reddit and Twitch and everywhere else is up in arms about. So I'm really interested to see exactly what I'm going to think about all of it. Season of Opulence is on fast approach, and similar to past seasons, some Sandbox changes will arrive with it. Last week, we set your sights on a new raid that begins on June 4th. The same day that the new season launches. We wanted to let you know what to expect from the Sandbox so you can plan accordingly. The Destiny dev team has the details. For the Season of Opulence, several notable weapons are being adjusted. We want to ensure that encounters, raids, and other in-game content, for example, remain a challenge. Some of those weapons have been overwhelming that challenge. Our first choice is to buff underused weapons, but if we continue to push every weapon up higher and higher, it will be impossible to maintain challenging experiences. This is not a full list of changes, but some of the most impactful. I was literally talking the other day, chat, about power creep, and as he suggests right here, if we push every weapon up higher and higher, it will be impossible to maintain challenging experiences. That is exactly what power creep is. So they are saying, the Destiny dev team as a whole, that they do not want power creep to ruin the game. I agree. Whisper of the Worm. Whisper of the Worm was already adjusted in Season of the Drifter, but an exotic that can generate an infinite amount of heavy ammo is still a gigantic outlier and renders many weapons irrelevant for certain encounters. While exotics are intended to be powerful and novel, bypassing the ammo economy can tend to force us to adjust enemies to compensate. This effectively results in sniper rifles as a whole being punished because of Whisper's unique ammo ability. As a result, we're removing the ammo generation ability so that we can increase the effectiveness of all other snipers that don't have an endless ammo supply. The changes are White Nail pulls ammo from reserves rather than creating it. Reserve ammunition increased to 18 without ammo reserve perks. Okay. So that's definitely starting really strong in terms of how they're changing something that is really significant. I literally released this solo 0-hour guide just now, and I mentioned in that video how I think that Whisper pretty much is a night and day difference between it and any other power weapon. So I definitely think that they are right, more or less, to say that it makes Whisper a gigantic outlier, as I say basically the exact same thing. And I do agree that the fact that it bypasses the ammo economy is kind of an issue, but I definitely think the ultimate solution to that is something like what I was talking about the other day, where having ammo slowly regenerate based on which type of weapon you're using would probably be a little better, because the current way we have ammo set up, you just go through, feast and famine with power ammo. You either get tons of power bricks or no power bricks at all, and that's really not okay. That ruins Gambit as a game mode half the time, in my opinion. I don't really think the current ammo system works. So Whisper was allowing us to, I guess, bypass that issue as players. And the other thing about it that I'm really going to miss is having a weapon that's going to have ammo for any challenge activities, solos, and anything meme or otherwise way too difficult for, normal players. I think those are going to be rendered much more difficult for having to fight the ammo economy, in addition to having to fight the ridiculous mechanics of anything you do in challenge. That said, it's not really something that the average player would ever have to worry about, and I feel like reserve ammunition increased to 18 without ammo reserve perks isn't the worst thing in the world. If you put 2 sniper reserves on that, I'm gonna guess that's gonna put you at, like, I don't know, 23, 24 bullets maybe. And That'll still leave Whisper as a pretty strong weapon. I just don't really understand exactly what's going to justify it as being an exotic too much at that point. Because at that point, Whispered Breathing is just... It layers on some extra damage and it makes it kind of good, but it's basically the same thing as Darcy, right? Like, Darcy just charges up each bullet individually, assuming that you get off target because of the recoil as you fire the shot. And, I mean, you don't have to reload it, but that's not really a thing in the first place. People use rally barricades and lunafaction boots to avoid having to reload all the time, so White Nail just isn't really much of a change from just using weapons normally. So I think Whisper of the Worm is completely losing its identity here, particularly as a challenge player's go-to gun, and I feel like they should have maybe seen something like this coming and, fixed the ammo economy outside of this. I really feel that overall the solution to the ammo economy in this game is to be generous with ammo so they can balance activities around us having strong guns. We shouldn't be having to balance heavily in favor of whether or not we will have ammo. Anyway, I've talked about that way too much. I think it's probably a good change for balance. I don't think it's the most fun change I've ever seen, but we've had Whisper for so long. It's okay for it to move on, I guess, now, even though I'm not personally a fan of what it is in principle. As far as balance is concerned, it's a good thing. Sleeper Simulant. The reduction of bounce shots damage for Sleeper Simulant is already present on several important enemies. We are now making this reduction part of the weapon. The difference is damage is too large between a single precision shot of Sleeper Simulant and an angled shot that pierces the target and then also hits the target again with the bounce projectiles. Much like Whisper, we've had to adjust enemies around that potential. By making these changes a permanent part of the weapon, we can get it into a more balanced position. Reduced ricochet bounce damage on boss combatants, modified precision behavior, total damage is unchanged, but non-precision shots are significantly more forgiving. So it's easier to land body shots, question mark? I'm not really 100% sure what that means. It either means that the body shot damage is increased or the hitbox for body shots is bigger, which I'm guessing it's the second one, because if they meant that body shot damage was increased, they probably would have said that exactly. Anyway, I don't really see how Sleeper needed a nerf. I didn't feel like it was that strong of a weapon in PvE compared to other things in general lately anyway, but it could be that by reducing the strength of other weapons, Sleeper will come back into being a more favorable choice. So that would be okay, I guess. I liked using Sleeper before in the past, and it's possible that it will move back into being in a pretty good place. I do wish they wouldn't reduce bounce shot damage, though, in general, because that is what makes the weapon really unique compared to Destiny 1's Sleeper, so I don't love that, but as long as the weapon winds up being relatively more powerful than most of the alternatives, it could still be a really good gun. Lord of Wolves. Lord of Wolves received a massive increase in damage with the full benefits of the shotgun changes in Season of the Drifter. It's made it a lot more popular, but we got a significant amount of feedback that Release the Wolves was activating on every kill, making it difficult... That Release the Wolves activating on every kill made it difficult to control the weapon's ammo consumption. As a result, we're allowing you to swap between the two states to control the output, while also reducing its output slightly. PvE damage reduced by 20%. Release the Wolves perk has been reworked. No longer triggers automatically on kill. This effect is now triggered by holding reload, similar to the fundamentals on Hardlight and Borealis. That's a pretty cool way to activate or deactivate a different mode on the gun. I kind of like that. PvE damage and range bonuses on this gun has been removed and replaced with a universal damage bonus instead. That's interesting. I haven't actually used this much myself, so I can't really comment on it in much depth, but I do know that Lord of Wolves in Gambit had a potential to be broken if you used it with the full collector set, and that might make it a little bit less broken. At any rate, I might have to actually give it a shot so I can comment more fully on it when I see anything in the future talking about it. Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades is pretty hot in the Crucible and has been since its inclusion in Destiny 2 Forsaken. The number of perks on the weapon combined with the semi-permanent effect of Memento Mori gives the weapon too many advantages compared to other weapons. Now that Memento Mori ends when you stow the weapon, you'll need to make a decision on whether or not you'll keep the weapon drawn to retain the bonus. Memento Mori now ends if the weapon is stowed. The PvP damage bonus of Memento Mori was slightly reduced to prevent 2-tapping Guardians while Vengeance, One-Eyed Mask, was active. Specifically, you need 4 resilience to survive this. Memento Mori is active for 6 shots again, up from 5. Okay. I don't know, that sounds like, that fits within the aesthetic of the weapon pretty nicely. And, it gives it at least some form of a drawback. I think that's a good change. Exotic armor. Along with the weapons above, we will also be making some changes to exotic armor pieces. Primarily, we're paying attention to pieces of exotic gear that grant super energy back. We felt they are increasingly becoming must-pick gear choices. Orb generation from teammates is meant to be the best way to accelerate your super generation. These exotics are allowing players to bypass this teamwork mechanic by generating a large amount of super energy without relying on other players' orbs. Also, because these items are so overwhelmingly strong in situations where players face off against a large number of enemies, some activities were designed considering the use of armor such as Orpheus Rigs, Phoenix Protocol, Skull of Dire Ahamkara, etc. This means that if someone in your fire team doesn't have these super exotics equipped, the activity becomes far more difficult. We are making some changes to these armor pieces to try to preserve their power fantasy and still leave them as viable choices for difficult activities without making players feel like they must have them equipped or be at a huge disadvantage. Super generating exotic armor changes. Skull of Dire Ahamkara, Orpheus Rig, and Phoenix Protocol now receive super energy back with diminishing returns, making it rarer to get a full super back. Diminishing returns. So does that mean that you'll get your full super on the first one and not quite your full super on the second one and not quite as much as the last and so forth as it goes on? Or does it mean the first enemy is worth a lot of super and the next is worth less and so forth? It's really hard to know exactly how significant this change is without having actually experienced it. But that sounds like exactly what I was saying the other day again, that those exotics are problematic because they are ability power creep and they make other exotics non-factors. So I think that's a really good change. I still think that there are other ways they could improve returning super. I don't think there should be super regeneration exotics, period. I think that you should be able to get a little bit of super energy back from ads mid-super, like you get when you are not in a super. And you should have a perk on helmets, kind of like hands-on or heavy lifting or enhanced heavy lifting, that gives you instead enhanced super regen, so that when you get a kill, you get, you know, a significant amount of extra super back in the same way you would from any other gear piece. I don't really understand why we don't get super back from enemies normally during our supers, because it just doesn't make any sense to me that we get it not in super, but as soon as we activate our super, enemies are no longer worth super energy anymore. It just doesn't really make sense. Dawnblade's bottom tree has something kind of like that, but I would say that even Dawnblade's bottom tree is too forgiving, because for me personally, it makes it feel like Dawnblade's top tree isn't really a good pick. I might as well just go with the bottom one. The only reason I even ever go to the middle one is because it's a completely different class, effectively. Otherwise, I would only ever run bottom tree if I'm trying to run Dawnblade. Point being, super regeneration is kind of a busted concept. Shards of Galanor and Ursa Furiosa had their super gain caps reduced to be in parity with other super exotic changes. Okay. Boost Invest had its energy reduced from 15% to 8% for killing 1 to 2 Guardians. Still scales up similar to before when killing 3 or more Guardians. PvE energy return remains similar to before. Yeah, I mean, I still don't really love all those conceptually, but considering they're already in the game, this seems like that's probably the most appropriate way to rebalance them. I guess, I would like more details on it, and I would like to actually play it to talk about it, but it sounds like those are appropriate changes for balance and to stave off power creep at least a little bit. We're sympathetic about the fact that the changes we make in the interest of balancing combat and game design can be jarring. It was important that we have this conversation before you read the patch notes. We know many of you have a lot riding on day 1 of Season of Opulence, however this intel will assist you in building the perfect monster killing machines for the next season of play. I mean, can you really call it a conversation when it's already been explicitly confirmed that none of these things are going to be changed based on feedback? Like, this is already effectively in the game come June 4th. They've made the decision to make these changes, so I don't know. Conversation feels like a little bit the wrong word, but at the same time, I do agree with all the changes. So for whatever my opinion is worth, I feel like they're making the right calls here. Although I think there are better systems than what they've got, but considering the point we're already at, these changes make sense. Repping Trevor, if you venture too deep into the old tower, you may have awoken something in the darkness, a terrifying machine of unknown purpose who now haunts our nightmares with a red glow. Now you can memorialize this horror with the fancy new Trevor t-shirt from the Bungie store. Even if you haven't completed the 0-hour mission and are just a big fan of killer robots, you can buy the shirt now. Trevor's pretty cool. We also have some other new additions to the store, including a Black Talon pin, a Sundance Ghost vinyl, comic collection shirt, and more. Okay. Support class. Destiny player support is here to help. You can find them on the help forums answering your questions. This is their report. A tale of two flashpoints. Last week, on the weekly reset of May 7th, players who logged into Destiny 2 immediately after 10 AM PDT were assigned EDZ as the weekly flashpoint, but all players who logged in after 10:30 received Titan as their weekly flashpoint. Following this week's weekly reset on May 14th, we expect all players to be realigned and everyone should see the same flashpoint moving forward. Pardon our dust. Is that the day that they ruined my ability to solo Riven? Yes, filth. Why are you like this, Riven? Iron Planner. Right now, Lord Saladin's in the tower hosting the final folded Iron Banner for the Season of the Drifter. Players who have been pursuing Heavy as Death Emblem for defeating 2,500 Guardians, rest in peace their souls, in Iron Banner, while affected by the Iron Burden, have until the weekly reset on Tuesday, May 21st. At that time, Lord Saladin will depart from the tower and Iron Banner will no longer be available for the remainder of the season. Only a few days remain to claim this reward, so players are encouraged to plan their matches now. Like all the million of them, I'm good. Clarification of the 9. Tomorrow, Xur's final invitation of the 9 becomes available to eligible players in Destiny 2. Unlike similar experiences that players encountered in the Dreaming City when completing weekly bounties from Petrovenge, players cannot miss out on any of Xur's invitations. Players who have fallen behind may resume progress by speaking to Xur the weekend after they complete their current invitation. From then on, progress will continue at a weekly cadence for players until they have completed all invitations. Destiny 2 known issues. In addition to the known issues described above, we'd like to touch on the following issues being investigated in Destiny 2. Risk Runner and PC bird errors. We're investigating an error where Risk Runner may sometimes cause bird errors for PC players in the 0-hour mission. That's wild. For other known issues tracked by the DPS team, please see our known issues and vital information page. Every time I read this, I feel like it means damage per second. I think they make the community have the conversation with us starting it with this list, but I agree it's badly worded. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just... maybe conversation is the right word and they're getting enough feedback that nerfing them is appropriate. But I just... based on the response that I mean, like... Look at this. What happened to the go-fast logic of making us feel powerful and trying not to do nerfs? This is awful. Stop nerfing fun things and start buffing bad exotics. In response to the exotic nerfs, what nail change is a massive disappointment. That's basically what I'm saying. Petition to name the update we're getting June 4th to the Go Slow update. Pretty funny. Bungie, you're taking away reasons for people to play the game. Stop it. Season of Opulence data mined weapon ornaments. That's below 7 posts that are all, like, just... With the recent Whisper nerfs, wouldn't it be fair to put the gun in the special slot as it pulls ammo from the reserves like Spindle? I mean... that makes sense to me. Pitchforks here. Bungie, for the love of God, stop lying. Literally left for like an hour and now the subreddit's on fire. Yeah, it's thumbs it up. This is not well received, at least as far as Reddit is concerned, and the same thing is basically true on Twitch and Twitter in my limited experience with it so far. Welcome back to Movie of the Week. This is where we pick a few of our favorite videos to highlight each and every week, except on weeks that we don't. If your video is chosen, make sure to add everyone who helped out in the description of the video, and we will give a special emblem to everyone who worked on it. Let's see what we got. Got Trevor's waiting. Oh, it's a... Well, no idea who made that, but that was actually pretty darn cool. How long is this? 4 minutes? If you want to watch this, watch yourself. We're only 2 TWABs away from the start of the Season of Opulence. We'll be sharing more on what to expect over the next few weeks. It's been awesome watching players in the community take the time to help others fight their way through the 0-hour mission. I think this might help some players out on... I think I might help some players out on LFG tonight. Or maybe I'll just slow them down. We'll see. Until next time. Okay. Well, I don't know. That looks pretty cool. I'm reasonably happy with the changes that they're making, because if they increase the level of difficulty by making our characters a little weaker, I think that's appropriate. I've been saying that we need a little bit more difficulty in the game for a while. it's just too easy to get through too much of the content, and this feels like an appropriate way to move towards that level of balance. And I don't necessarily think that we would need more of it going forward, but whenever there's an opportunity to like kind of reset with a blank slate, like in Destiny 3, I would like to see less overwhelmingly powerful exotics, like Whisper having infinite ammo and Skull, Orpheus, and Phoenix giving us infinite supers. Those things are over the top. I think they can probably maintain a power fantasy that is exciting to play without giving us things that just give us infinite supers. That said, I do think that having activities like Blind Well, where we have abilities to give us effectively infinite supers and ammo, is the ultimate middle ground, where we don't have it define the game so much as define an activity within the game. But overall, I'm reasonably happy to see these changes, and I'll be interested to see how they actually pan out when Season of Opulence starts on June 4th. Well, I don't know. I thought I was going to come away with that, with at least something to complain about, but honestly, I really have no real complaints about this, because I feel like the motivation for the changes they're making is good. The impact it will have remains to be seen.